I'm Weston. I love talking about the Jets, and we are now about a day removed from the 2021 NFL Draft. And I'm here to give you my full thoughts on every single New York Jets selection, all 10 of them. Plus, I'm also going to mention a couple of free agents that we signed after the unsigned or the undrafted free agents, because we've actually got a few of them that I'm pretty happy with. One in particular, I think, is a absolute diamond in the rough scenario for us in tight end Kenny Yeboah. But I will get into that in a bit. I want to talk about the actual selection. So, the first one we made was obviously quarterback out of BYU, Zach Wilson. Now, you know enough about Zach Wilson. You know everything there is to know. You're a Jets fan. You know that he's, a very good quarterback coming out of BYU with a cannon of an arm, great decision-making, deadly accurate, a 73.5 completion percentage out of BYU last year, which is a college record for them. You know everything there is to know. This guy is an absolute stud. 33 touchdowns to 3 picks, plus he added 10 touchdowns on the ground last year. I wouldn't say he's a running quarterback, but he is very mobile. His ability to just seemingly have eyes in the back of his head within the pocket is truly insane. This guy has an insanely high ceiling and could be the best quarterback in this draft class. Very, very easily. And I mean, if this is the consolation prize for not getting Trevor Lawrence, that is a darn good consolation prize in Zach Wilson. The next pick was the 14th overall pick for the New York Jets. They traded up from 23, which was from the Seattle Jamal Adams trade, and they selected Elijah Vera Tucker. Now, it's very hard to say, statistics about a player like Elijah Vera Tucker. Obviously, guards, there's not like, oh, he had this many touchdowns or this completion percentage or this many yards or what have you. But I can tell you this, he is a fantastic guard. He barely allows any pressures. I think he only allowed 3 sacks all of last year. Might have even been less than that. This is an absolute stud of a player. He is going to be a fantastic guard, easily the best guard in the draft, bar none. And this is a plug-and-play starter that you can just say, hey, go play left guard, and you don't have to worry about him for hopefully 10 years or so. This is an absolute fantastic pick, and a lot of people were not happy that we, traded up to go get him. People were like, oh, he might have been there at 23. And my thing is, look, he is such a fantastic player. Don't risk it. Don't risk it. He is easily the best guard. Joe Douglas said, I want to protect my quarterback for the next however long he's going to be here. And he went out and got the guy he wanted. I am not going to complain whatsoever about the selection of Elijah Vera Tucker. It was the first night in the draft, like the first round, that I went in saying, I would like us to get both players, and we got both of them. This was just really fantastic for the Jets. And in the second round, our third selection, at the 34th overall pick, the New York Jets selected Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. Now, this kind of shocked people. A lot of people thought we would go offensive line. Some people thought we might go edge or corner. A lot even thought we would trade out of the pick, and that's sort of where I was. However, this is a fantastic pick by Joe Douglas. He said after the pick that they didn't think he would be there. They were hoping to get him maybe at 23. Which really says something about how highly touted this guy is. The Jets got, by some draft boards, 3 top 20 players. Elijah Moore is a stud wide receiver, and if you want to get into the actual statistics of him and some really good numbers, he just becomes even more awe-inspiring than he already was. Absolute speed demon on the field. A 4.32 40-yard dash is insane. You have an absolute burner for the offense now. 1,200 yards last year, almost. I think it was 1,197. In 8 games, which is a yards per game of 149 and some change. That is insane. Now, this included, I think it was a game, he had a few, I think it was 3 games where he had over 225 yards receiving. The guy is a madman out there. Now, along with that, his yards per catch is 13.9, which is fantastic. He gets a lot of big receptions, which is great because we have not really had a player that's been able to help us look downfield. Robbie Anderson was kind of that, but the last genuine good deep threat who was also a solid route runner was probably Brandon Marshall. I think that's fair to say. Along with this, he had a 90% of his routes that he ran, he had a step or more of separation. Now you get that from having speed, but I also want to say this. I watched quite a bit of his film, and people weren't talking about how good of a route runner this guy is. His routes that he runs are just super crisp. They are clean. The way he plants his foot and then pivots is fantastic. That is how you get separation on the next level. That having a fantastic route running ability, planting your foot, driving, the beautiful pivots he does, that's how you gain separation. And when you throw in 4.3 speed, whoo, boy, you have a guy that at worst is going to be a very, very solid number 3 receiver on this Jets team for the next 4 years, and at best could be a deadly weapon on this team for the next decade or more with Zach Wilson to have him paired there, which is fantastic. Now, along with this, I wouldn't say he's a smaller guy, Elijah Moore. So I don't mean he's going to break out of tackles like a DK Metcalf or like an old Calvin Johnson. That's not what I mean. But he's very slippery is the word that I would use to describe him. If you don't have a good grip on him, he's probably going to be able to slip out of the tackle, which is fantastic. A lot of his plays, he just can read the defense well, make nice little cuts, move in and out, get some more free space. That's really good. Along with this, I also want to say his jet sweeps are very good. This is where he really showcases how good he is at reading a defense and where they're going to go. Just watch any of his jet sweeps. It looks like he's going to get swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage and then ends up getting 10 yards. So that's very encouraging. And another thing I wanted to mention about him is his receptions. He likes to put his hands out and get the ball, which is what you're taught. Don't let it hit your body, and he doesn't do that. Almost every reception that I watched is him putting his hands out with a very nice, I don't know what you would call this, but it's automatic. It feels like he's a machine made to run past defenders and catch balls, and it is fantastic. Now, would I have gone in the direction of wide receiver here? I might not have. I might have said, a line. But Joe Douglas said, no, we are not going to make the mistakes like we did with Sam Darnold. We're going to give Zach Wilson an absolute burner on offense who also has incredible route running mechanics. And after watching him, there is very little in his game that I think is concerning. I couldn't really find much of anything. Now, obviously, it's not a guarantee, but man, oh man, does he have all of the abilities to be a fantastic number 1 receiver for this Jets franchise. Again, we did not have any third-round selections because we used both of them to trade up to get Elijah Vera Tucker. So our first fourth-round selection at 107 overall, this might be the best value pick in the draft. The New York Jets select Michael Carter out of North Carolina. And man, oh man, this is so exciting. The Jets I was totally for running back by committee. I really was. And then I saw this pick, and I saw his film, and I looked at his stats, and I just got so excited. The Jets have a legitimate number 1 running back, who, I'm going to be honest, is not a whole lot worse than any of the guys taken in the first round. The drop-off between him, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne is not that drastic, and you're getting him at 107 overall. This is a fantastic pick by Joe Douglas. I watched a lot of his film. I wanted to get a feel for him, and my goodness gracious, my first thought while watching him is he reminds me to a person not dissimilar of a prime Steelers Le'Veon Bell. He has great ability to read the defense, going between the tackles. His patience is fantastic. His little stutter step with his feet is great. That's a big thing. I watched his footwork, and it is just awe-inspiring. His ability to stop on a dime and make a great cut in between defenders and, often offensive players who are blocking for him is great and helps him pick up some extra yards. He is not afraid to bulldoze over people. There was a great clip of him bulldozing the other Michael Carter, who we also drafted, to get a touchdown. He is a physical player. He is a little tank, and I am ecstatic. Then you get into some statistics. In 2019, he had 1,003 yards, which is great. He also had 154 yards receiving, so that's all positive. But then you get into 2020. Now, again, this is the second running back on a roster putting up these numbers. 1,245 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, excuse me. He averaged 8 yards per carry in 2020, which is mind-blowing. Along with this, he also had 267 yards receiving with a pair of touchdowns for a 10.7 yards per catch, which is insane, and 1,512 scrimmage yards with 11 touchdowns, so 8.4 yards per touch as the second running back on a team. That is just so exciting to pick up a guy with this level of talent in the 4th round, no less, is just, man, oh man, am I ecstatic to see this. Joe Douglas, again, he looked at the team and he said, I want to make sure that Zach Wilson has every single weapon he needs to succeed. In the words of Robert Saleh, this team is going to lift him up and not the other way around, which is very clear given the first 4 selections. And this is a fun little piece of trivia. This is the first time since 1983 that the New York Jets have selected 4 consecutive offensive players to start a draft. Now, for reference, the Bears had not won their Super Bowl yet. Joe Montana hadn't started the dynasty yet. I'm pretty sure none of these players had been drafted. Actually, I know for a fact none of these players were drafted yet. And my parents had not met yet. So that's how long this was since we finally did this again. So that is fantastic. I loved the first 4 picks, and there were also a few after that were also very, very good by the Jets. 5th selection in the draft, in the 5th round, 146th overall, they selected Jamin Sherwood, which he was listed as a safety, which is kind of very untrue because he didn't really play safety all that much. He played a lot of different positions. He is a Swiss Army knife for the New York Jets, and specifically for Robert Saleh's defense, which he should have fun with this toy. He is a linebacker, safety, nickel corner hybrid at 6'2" and 220 pounds. Now, his defensive snap play via Michael Niana, I'm probably butchering that, sorry, on Twitter, gave his defensive snap breakdown, which is very encouraging, right? I was super excited to learn this. 28% of his defensive snaps were at inside linebacker, 27.8% were at free safety, 20.2% were at slot corner, 16.7% were at strong safety, and 6.2% were at outside linebacker, and finally 1% of them were at an outside corner. So this is a super versatile player who can play pretty much everywhere on the defense. He also said, and this is kind of funny, that he would play defensive edge if we wanted him to, which he clearly can play everywhere. He is an insane tackler. He had 75 just last year. He's a little bit slower. He ran a 4.75 40-yard dash, which isn't great, but he's a versatile guy. He's a very big guy, so if he gets a hold of you, he's going to drag you down, which is great. And he can play pretty much everywhere. And the fact that he can play safety, corner, and linebacker means that if you put him at linebacker, he's actually going to be able to cover, which the Jets haven't really had much of. So that is super exciting. Pick was Michael Carter II. Now, this is a funny story. I meant to record my live reaction to Michael Carter, the running back selection, yesterday. And we picked him. I looked him up on College Football Reference, and then I had the wrong one. And I was reading the statistics for the safety. And I was like, man, that sucks. That isn't who we drafted. So I got to delete this reaction, and I got to record another one that's just going to be me talking about it. And then we selected Michael Carter II. And I think it is particularly funny that we selected Michael Carter and then Michael Carter II in that order. Is he great? Not necessarily the best. It's not. But again, this is the 5th round. Like, you're not going to be taking, great players. You're taking developmental pieces that you're hoping can become something. And he is someone that I think could do that potentially. Seemingly going to be a slot corner for the defense. He's pretty short and fast. I've seen anywhere from 5'8" as height to 5'11", but a 4.3 40-yard dash flat, which is very exciting. 190 pounds, 41 tackles in 2020, 3 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 8 pass defensed, which is pretty darn good. He also had 31 targets at slot corner, gave up only 15 of them, and 122 yards total, so a yards per catch of 3.9, which is darn good for, a slot corner. And again, he's probably not going to be the full-time starter at slot, but he could be a rotational piece. I'm cool with it. Like, it's good, you're taking developmental pieces. And I like that we took a lot of swings defensively for Robert Saleh and his defensive unit later in the draft. For the New York Jets was the 5th round, 175th pick, Jason Pinnock. 6 foot flat, 200 pounds, ran a 4.47 40 with a 39.5-inch vertical jump. So pretty athletic guy, and it's the 5th round. You're not going to be getting probably day 1 or week 1 starters, but if you're getting solid players like this guy who could develop, that's great. He has great hand-eye coordination, really good at going up and deflecting the ball away, so that's great. Again, a very good versatile player but a good physical presence for Robert Saleh's defense, and you're taking a lot of swings to get developmental guys for Robert Saleh, who has had very good luck in the past developing late-round defensive backs, so I'm cool with it. This is not a bad selection, and again, you're getting into the 5th round, so it's whatever. Take developmental guys, and if you want to get CBs, which again is a huge need for the New York Jets, that's great if you want to go in that direction. 6th round pick, 186th overall to the Jets, Hamsel Nasruddin. And oh my god, I have no idea how this guy slid to us in the 6th round. I don't know how this guy got that far down in it. Another super versatile player who is said by the Draft Network, which is a good site to look at, can play any scheme. He is super versatile. Only 2 games in 2020, but in 2019, he played 11 games, 101 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 3 passes defensed, and just an insane physical guy to come in and play for the Jets. 6'4", 220. Man, oh man, this guy is going to be fun to have on the defense for Robert Saleh and company. This is a fantastic pick, and I freaking love it, man. Our 3 6th-round picks, 200th overall, Brandon Eichels. It's hard to say at this point. It's literally the 200th ranked prospect from our board. But he's another CB, 5'11", 178, 24 games in college football, 108 tackles, which is pretty good for a corner. 2.5 tackles or 4.5 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 11 passes defensed in his 24 games. So this is a fine pick. You know, you want to take a lot of swings for the secondary. That's cool. It's been sort of neglected for a long time in favor of the defensive line for like the past decade, specifically by Mike McCagnon. So it's cool. If you want to go that route, that's fine. You know, I haven't been able to do a ton of research into Brandon Eichels, but, you know, his numbers are fairly good for a 6th-round pick, and I'm not going to complain about it. The final selection by the Jets in the 2021 draft, the 6th round, 207th overall, our final pick, Jonathan Marshall, which is a defensive lineman. 6'3", 317, by all accounts, a physical freak, ran a 4.77 40-yard dash, and 36 reps on the bench press, which is 225 pounds. So just an insane guy, 6.5 tackles for loss in 2020 with a sack and a forced fumble. My thing is, like, I don't necessarily think defensive line was needed in this draft. Like, I thought we were fine there. Like, granted, getting a physical freak like this, that's cool. I think the Jets were ranked 4th for the most physical players taken in the draft, and this is another one, just a freak of nature. So that's cool. Like, I'm fine with that, but there's a ton of guys on the defensive line that I think are probably going to beat him out. You have Quinnen Williams, you have John Franklin Myers, you have Folufatukasi. I believe he's still here. You just have a lot of guys there, so I'm not crazy about it, but you're taking a guy who's a monster and could potentially wreck shop for you, which, you know, is not a bad pick. And then we picked up a couple. I mean, I think we got like 5 or 6 so far undrafted free agents, but I want to talk about 2 of them in particular. The first one is Kenny Yeboah. Oh man. I am ecstatic about this pickup. This is fantastic. This is an undrafted free agent who, I'm not kidding, is going to start week 1. He's starting week 1. I'm calling it right now. You can take this prediction to the bank. He is 6'4", 240, an absolute freak. There is a great play against Florida, getting tackled, stretching all the way out, using his right hand for leverage to get the ball in the end zone. Great play. Had an absolute monstrous day for Ole Miss going up against Alabama, which is, you know, it's Alabama. And he helped them push them to the absolute limit. I believe 178 yards with a pair of touchdowns. Unreal game for him against Alabama. This is just an insane guy, super huge, not afraid to go up and get the ball and overpower people for it. He also had an insane play in the Senior Bowl for a 27-yard touchdown, which is great. Total steal. I have no idea how this guy was undrafted. I have no idea. This guy is insane, and I lost my mind when I started looking at his statistics because this guy is a monster. And we got him undrafted free agent. We didn't have to do anything. I believe the contract we gave him base was a $20,000 signing bonus and $180,000. Like, you're getting a guy that is dirt cheap and I'm calling it. You can take this to the bank. You can send them this video. They're probably not going to accept it, but you can take it to the bank and show it to them. You know, feel free to do that. He's starting week 1. I'm calling it. He also had a better yards per catch at 18 yards per catch than Kyle Pitts at 17.9 and Pat Freiermuth at 13.4. And you might say, well, Weston, they had a lot more yards. You know, this guy only had like 550-some yards. And I would say, yes, but Ole Miss is not the powerhouse that, say, you know, Florida is. Like, this guy is just, man, oh man, am I excited about Kenny Yeboah.